What up, y'all? Back again. These are mainly from the United States of America. Back in the 1800s. These were all built before the 1900s, before even power tools were invented, before the 1870s. Each one of these buildings. Most of these are from the United States of America, like I said. And please look at them. You'll see the windows going into the ground. You'll see the top-heavy buildings. And buildings with heavy architecture that we just don't build today. We don't have the finances to build them today. You need skilled labor to build this sort of stuff. These guys were doing this before the time. Do you see those windows and stuff going into the ground? You'll see also that the concrete is not level that's going up to the buildings, that it's kind of sloped a lot of times. Look at the size of these people to these things. We're talking about this was a time in this world system that we are told they did not have anything but a mule and wooden wheels and a chisel and a hammer. A few people coming out of plagues. And they had to quarry this thing, and what? All of this stuff was quarried and then dragged there and then somehow installed. Do you see those pillars? I mean, how did they etch those? How did they carve those? How did they create these monstrosities, and why would they build them for giant individuals? Why would you build them when it's not necessary and the money wasn't available, the people weren't available? Why would you have these sort of buildings when you didn't even have the populations that we have today? They're all sunk in the mud, and a lot of times they were either dug out or they put doors into second floor windows and things like that. Look at the architecture on this. This stuff it's just stuff that we just couldn't do today. Even if it doesn't matter how many people, a lot of them, not all of them possibly, but you're talking about throwing tons of money at it if you did. Tons. And years upon years of work. This stuff that we build today is junk. It has nothing on these structures. These structures were full on 100% authentic in the nature of whatever material they were using. Today, we have everything is faux and fake. It's fake wood, it's plastic sidings, it's styrofoam ceilings. It's crap. You could take a broom handle and almost push it through the outer wall of a home in most cases. These things were all almost, I think all of these structures are also gone now. I think that was in New Orleans in the 1800s. I mean, this is ridiculous that they would build that with not a power tool. They didn't even have power. They didn't have a dump truck, not a crane, nothing. So how do you build these types of structures? I mean, just to get the material to the job site would take forever. Look at that top-heavy building. You're going to find all these buildings are top-heavy unless they completely dug them out, which they did in some cases. And then they had cameras in and around 1820. And if they do have a construction site photo of some of these buildings, which most of the time they don't, if they do, they're going to show them already fully up. And maybe they'll show some materials around the building, but that's because they're remodeling it from and refurbishing it after the mud flood occurred in and around 1812 when we were reset. And then they destroyed all of these buildings very quickly to get rid of them. But generally speaking, see the windows going in the ground? That thing goes a lot deeper. Look how top heavy it is. We have a worldwide catastrophe that happened at the time of 1812, and nobody's talking about it. sunk every building in the mud, and all the infrastructure disappeared. There was very few people. There was no trees and no plant life, almost. Everything was mudded out, and there was no adults. But it's obvious they didn't die because there would be bone fragments everywhere. Everything started, and it was jumped off since 1812 when it talks about any kind of technology. And for this architecture to be all over the earth, it was a kingdom, y'all. It was a kingdom that ruled the whole earth and then disappeared. And it's obvious because we can't do this stuff today. That's a star fort, y'all. That thing was there already. I mean, how do you do these things today? And some people have even researched that plant that is on all of these pillars, and it comes down to the plant that had the crown of thorns that went on Christ's head. So that's to signify that occurred. Maybe that they're acknowledging the fact that he is the Messiah through those things. Because that stuff's even on our money. That same type of plant life. But that's St. Louis in the 1800s, y'all. I mean, how could this stuff look better in the 1800s than it does now? That's Chicago in 1893, I think. Look at that. It looks like Rome, y'all. That is Salt Lake City. That is some sort of government building. It was repurposed. Do you think the government would build a building like that? Like, it's ridiculous. Look at this one's beauty. This is at some college in America. In America, y'all. When were we building that type of stuff there? I don't remember. Look at how tiny these people are to these buildings in Chicago in the 1890s. Who built that without a crane? You had men up there with some wooden cheesy ladders lifting up these big pillars. Look at that thing, man. This is America, y'all. Even if it's not America, it doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is just follow the timeline. You tell me what happened, because I tell you that the Millennial Kingdom occurred, and there's thousands of things that back this up and that fulfill the biblical narrative. Look at that thing. That's America. And it's on the water. I mean, that makes it even harder to build. Look at that one. That's America, y'all. Didn't have those power tools. No cords needed because you didn't have power. But you built all of this stuff. Look at that right there. Took like 80 years, supposedly, in like the 1700s. How do you build that? How do you make that? 1816 to 18... They have these false narratives that were written by some computer system, like artificial intelligence. And they just pumped out all these stories, these backdrops, these background stories, using some sort of artificial intelligence for us. And they're stupid. The more you look into them, you'll find that whatever the narrative is unbelievable. Like some cheesy engineer who built 200 of these structures in his lifetime, or these monstrosities like that, I think, is in New Orleans, and they build them in like a couple of years according to the backdrop. And look at that. That's New York Stock Exchange. See how top heavy that thing was? There's your Antiquitech technology still up in some cases, in some places. You gotta know, man, something's going on. You tell me. I'm telling you, this is what happened. And those that built these structures are not here anymore. Thank you for watching.